Hey guys, today we're going to take you to the B.B. King Museum and the Delta Interpretive Center. Once again, we got Richard on the camera and Robbie doing the driving. Come along with us. Let's go explore. Before the 1950s, hardly any African American voices were heard on the radio. On Sundays during the 1950s, Riley B. King was a member of the St. John's Singers, and they were one of the most popular groups to come perform here at WGRM Radio. Riley was a guitar player for the St. John's Singers, and they would come in here on Sundays and perform, thus making WGRM Radio Studio the first place that broadcast the voice of the great B.B. King. One surprise the B.B. King Museum gave me was the fact that it does a really good job of being exactly what's advertised, a Delta Interpretive Center. If you don't know much about the Mississippi Delta and you need to learn a thing or two, this would be a great place to come. For instance, scorching sun, biblical floods, despair, and faith, the Mississippi Delta has always been a place of extremes. It was here in the fields and on the street corners and in the juke joints Saturday nights that African Americans invented a new kind of music. They called it the blues. It radiated from the South, revolutionizing popular music and eventually crossed oceans. Welcome to the story of B.B. King and America's musical roots. Albert and Nora L. King could tell the time of day by looking through the cracks in the walls of their ramshackle house in Bear Clare, Mississippi. B.B. King was born on September 16, 1925. Folks, this is one of those times that I'm almost overwhelmed with the amount of information and things that I want to show you. You just simply have to make the trek here for yourself sometime, if I'm going to keep this video down to around 10 minutes. This is the guy that helped young Riley King overcome his tendency to stutter. African American church music was changing in the 40s when Riley was coming of age. Spirituals were now competing with gospels. And this display also does a great job of showing you how things like the Great Flood of 1927 and other kind of pests impact the lives of, wealthy and the impoverished alike. But it's the impoverished that seem to live life on sort of a razor's edge. If it had not been for the family Bible and a preacher's sermon, we would have gone out like a light. Young Riley B. King could make almost as much money playing on the corners of a place called Church Street in Indianola, Mississippi on Saturday nights as he could make working in the fields the rest of the week. Blind Lemon Jefferson was the first, we'll call him, megastar of the blues, and he had a great influence on young Riley. As you can see, this place seamlessly goes from the history of the Delta to musical history as well. And here you can't see it that well, but that's young Riley B. King's World War II draft card. Reading from the wall here, it says rural juke joints where B.B. often played were fun and spirited, but could get unruly. On a winter evening in 1949, punches flew between two men inside a crowded club in Twist, Arkansas. A barrel of kerosene being burned for heat tumbled over, and everyone fled as flames engulfed the room. B.B. plunged back inside to retrieve his instrument. He later recalled, "I almost lost my life trying to save my guitar." To remind himself never to do anything so risky again, he named the instrument after the woman whose charms had set off the fight. Her name was Lucille. B.B. King has released over 50 albums, many of them classics. He would sometimes play in as many as 4 towns in one night. Here we see some jug band instruments. You see the jug, you blow into it, kind of like maybe you would a flute to create the sound. The homemade one-string bass, the fiddle, the washboard, and it looks like a banjo. In 1947, B.B. hitchhiked to Memphis to pursue his musical career. Memphis is where every important musician of the South seemed to find themselves because it supported a musical community that had every style of African American music. B.B. stayed with his cousin, Bukka White, who was one of the most celebrated blues performers of his time. By the way, we tell you a little more about Bukka White in the video we did about the African American History Trail in Aberdeen, Mississippi. Of course, the Jim Crow era impacted B.B.'s career, and he had to rely on something like a guidebook, maybe like the Negro Motorist Green Book, to navigate the countryside. The Green Book would have told them places that it was safe for African American entertainers to stay, places much like maybe the Lorraine Motel. Apparently, the group paid $199.98 to stay there. The Irish rock group U2 impressed B.B. King with its powerful lyrics and its musicianship. B.B. met the band backstage in Dublin one time, and he asked the lead singer Bono to write a song for him. The result was a musical masterpiece called When Love Comes to Town. This 1988 collaboration blended riveting vocals with blistering riffs from Lucille. On the band's worldwide Rattle and Hum tour came along B.B. King, spreading the blues far and wide, playing stadiums filled with thousands of young rock fans. B.B. King truly did introduce millions worldwide to the blues. He's really a bridge for the real deep blues for a mass audience. That stuff never gets tainted by politics or anything else, said guitarist Derek Trucks. Singer Bonnie Raitt is quoted as saying, "Being such a kind and loving person makes him a perfect ambassador for the blues." The road was tough on B.B. King's personal life. After their divorce, his second wife was quoted as saying the road was tough on having a personal life with somebody who was gone 365 days a year. Perhaps that is why he created this home studio. This is how it appeared in October 2007. In here he could relax, compose and play music, and generally recharge from days being on the road. B.B. King received the nation's highest honor for a civilian, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, in 2006. These, of course, are his many Grammy Awards. I counted some 20 Grammy Awards before I stopped counting, and he was nominated 7 other times. He won his first Grammy in 1971 and his last one in 2014. What an amazing career. In the last section of the museum, you get to see the vehicles that were important to B.B. King in his life. This is B.B. King's 1978 Rolls-Royce Silver Ghost. I can just imagine the King of the Blues sporting around town in real style in this beautiful automobile. And for those of you who've never seen inside a Rolls-Royce, let's take a little bit closer view. You know, B.B. acquired this automobile after years of developing one of the world's most identifiable guitar styles. He probably borrowed from T-Bone Walker and Blind Lemon Jefferson and others. He had precise and complex string bends and his left-hand vibrato, both of which have become indispensable components of rock guitars today. His every note counts phrasing has been a model for thousands of guitar players, from Eric Clapton to George Harrison to Jeff Beck. You know, B.B. used to say, "I have a nice car, a Mercedes, and then I have an old El Camino truck that I'm just crazy about. I like to get in that truck and go up in the hills near where I live in Vegas and take my camera. That to me is a heaven, being out in nature, taking pictures of the wildlife." This, of course, is B.B. King's 1984 electric blue Chevy El Camino. The last vehicle we get to check out here is B.B. King's tour bus. I just wonder how many cajillion of miles that this bus ran during the King of Blues career. This was a 1980s, I believe, era bus. And B.B. King took to touring and took to the road harder than so many other musicians, even well into his 70s. This is B.B.'s longest traveled tour bus. Throughout the course of his career, he averaged over 200 shows a year. He played 342 shows in 1956 alone. I love that quote. I am trying to get people to see that we are our brother's keeper. Red, white, black or brown or yellow, rich or poor, we all have the blues. B.B. King performed in over 90 countries before he was laid to rest here in 2015. B.B. started touring nationally after his #1 hit, 3 O'Clock Blues. He became one of the most renowned blues musicians. No, I correct myself. He became the most renowned blues musician of the next 50 years. B.B. was inducted into the Blues Foundation Hall of Fame in 1984 and into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987. He also received his Lifetime Achievement Award in 1987. In 1973, he received an honorary doctorate from Tougaloo College in Mississippi and from Yale University in 1977. Also, he received doctorates from Berklee College of Music, Rhodes College in Memphis, Mississippi Valley State University, and Brown University. In 1991, B.B. King's Blues Club opened on Beale Street in Memphis, Tennessee. B.B.'s classic songs include Paying the Cost to Be the Boss, The Thrill Is Gone, How Blue Can You Get, Every Day I Have the Blues, and of course, Why I Sing the Blues. B.B. had 2 #1 R&B hits, The 3 O'Clock Blues and You Don't Know Me, 4 #2 R&B hits, Please Love Me, You Upset Me Baby, Sweet 16, and Don't Answer the Door. B.B. King passed away in his sleep on May the 14th, 2015. Another great Mississippian who was simply the best there was at what he did. Thank you.